Well, all right, so I want to talk about the whole Paul Manafort and Cohen situation going on. As usual, the media is blowing this out of proportion and is just absolutely lying and exaggerating to try to get Trump impeached or to try and make Trump look bad. So let's cover Paul Manafort first. So Paul Manafort does these corrupt, bad things like 10 years ago, bank fraud, tax fraud, lying to get a bank loan or some bullshit like that. Had nothing to do with the campaign, nothing to do with the presidency, nothing to do with Russia collusion. It was Paul Manafort who committed the crime, and it doesn't really affect Trump. It's irrelevant to Trump's presidency because nobody knew about it until now. When Trump hired Manafort, nobody knew about this. Some people are like, well, it doesn't have anything to do with a campaign or Trump, but Trump hired him, so it's Trump's fault, and Trump shouldn't have hired him in the first place because he's a criminal. Well, nobody knew he was a criminal. Nobody was saying when Trump hired him that he's a criminal and he evaded taxes and shit like that. Trump hired Paul Manafort because Paul Manafort was a political veteran. He worked on many Republican campaigns. And at that point of the campaign, Trump was trying to get enough delegates at the convention because the Republican Party did not like Trump and was trying to screw him out of the delegates. So Trump brought on Paul Manafort to secure those delegates and to make sure he got the nomination. That's why Paul Manafort was on board. So the whole Paul Manafort being guilty thing has nothing to do with Trump. Now, does this affect the legitimacy of Robert Mueller's investigation? I mean, yeah, it looks pretty good for Mueller. Not totally 100% positive for Robert Mueller, but I'd say about a 70% positive for Robert Mueller. Why do I say 70%? Because Manafort was only convicted 8 of 18 charges. So, I mean, he wasn't convicted of everything. The jury did not acquit him on 10 of those. I mean, it was a hung jury. So it's not like 100% bad or good for Robert Mueller in this sense. But it does show that the charges Mueller brought are legitimate. At least some of them were. And it does show Paul Manafort is a criminal, and I'm glad that he was charged. I mean, that's what our country's all about, right? I would just hope that the Democrats are investigated too, because this investigation seems very one-sided. It was started to investigate Russia's interference in the election, and there's a lot of evidence that the Democrats, through things like Christopher Steele, and Hillary Clinton, did have some involvement with Russia. Now, whether that's a crime or not, I don't know. But why isn't Mueller investigating that? Instead, he's investigating shit that doesn't have to do with Russia, like Paul Manafort and bank fraud. So we're completely off of Russia now, and Mueller's focusing on this. Why doesn't he focus on the Democrats' possible dealings with Russia? Why isn't that a focus of this investigation? This special counsel was not just set up to investigate Trump. It was set up to investigate the entire election. So I don't get why Democrats just get a free pass here. If some Republican did something bad, yes, I want him prosecuted, and I'm glad Paul Manafort got prosecuted because he is a criminal. So I'm glad that happened. But why aren't they looking into Christopher Steele and the Democrats in the dossier? All right, so now that I covered that, let's move on to Cohen. So what happened here is Trump probably had an affair like 10 years ago or some shit like that. And he paid this girl off during the election, during the campaign, so that she wouldn't talk about it and ruin his public image. I mean, this is something that happens all the time with celebrities. So the problem is that Cohen made the payment. So this is being considered a campaign contribution. Even though Trump paid Cohen back. Cohen paid it first, and then Trump paid Cohen back. I mean, I was reading articles on how Trump paid Cohen back. So really, Trump made the payment, but Cohen technically made it. So like, this is ridiculous. It's a technicality, and it's not even clear if Trump or his campaign broke a campaign finance law. And what I've been hearing, I've been listening to what Alan Dershowitz has been saying on this matter, and even Alan Dershowitz, who's a Democrat, has been saying that campaigns violate these laws all the time, and it's almost like jaywalking. Like, he said that pretty much every campaign's violated a law. Oh, in fact, Barack Obama violated a campaign finance law and was fined $375,000, his campaign was. But nobody was calling for his impeachment at that time. I didn't hear a big story about that in the news, did you? No, you didn't. So there's a double standard here when it comes, again, to Republicans and Democrats. They investigate the Republicans, but they don't investigate the Democrats. Obama commits a campaign finance violation. They don't give a shit. Trump does. They're calling for his impeachment and saying this is like the worst day ever in the Trump presidency. So the bottom line is, if Trump would have paid this out of his own pocket to I think her name was Karen McDougal, there wouldn't have been a problem. But instead, Cohen made the payment, and so there's some gray area about whether this is a campaign finance violation or not. We'll see. But to say Trump should get impeached over this is complete bullshit, because Obama never got impeached over this, did he? Nobody even made a big deal about it. And like I said, the whole Manafort thing is irrelevant to the Trump presidency. It has nothing to do with Donald Trump at all. So we'll see what happens here. But, and by the way, I don't give a shit who Trump was having an affair with. And if I just don't give a shit about that. I don't think that has any bearing about whether he's a good president for our country or not, whether he had an affair 10 years ago. When people voted for Trump, they knew he was not an angel. They knew he was not the second coming of Jesus Christ. All right? I mean, I'm not surprised by Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. Did he cheat? Probably. Do I care? Not really. So we'll see what happens. But it's funny, because the Democrats were hoping to get Trump on Russia collusion. That's all we've heard about for the past year or two is Russia, Russia, Russia. But now they're looking into Cohen and porn stars, which have nothing to do with the president. And they're looking into Paul Manafort and bank fraud and tax fraud, which has nothing to do with Russia and nothing to do with Trump. So they've struck out on Russia collusion. So they're trying to get other people to in every crime that they've gotten an American on, like Paul Manafort and Michael Flynn and George Papadopoulos, has nothing to do with Russia. Trump did not commit any crimes. Is this a campaign finance violation? We will see if it is or not. But like I said, Obama committed one. The Obama campaign committed one, and nothing happened to Obama. So, and like I said, Alan Dershowitz, a Democratic lawyer, said that these campaign finance violations happen in pretty much every campaign. So it's funny that Democrats are trying to bring Trump down just for an affair he committed 10 years ago. Like, who gives a shit about that? So there's no evidence of Russia collusion. So again, they're moving on to other things, and they're getting desperate. And I don't think these two things have any bearing on the Trump presidency or Trump. They don't. They might affect Trump in the public eye, because once again, the left-wing media is corrupt and will use anything to try to frame Trump on and try to make him look bad and try to bring down his popularity numbers, his approval numbers. But in my opinion, these two things do not affect my view of Donald Trump at all. I mean, it just reaffirms the fact that the whole establishment and mainstream media is against Trump, and all the Democrats are just looking to bring Trump down, and they're not rooting for our country to win. They're trying to divide our country. They're trying to find any little thing and try and do it to make Trump look bad or impeach Trump. I mean, really, they're going to try to impeach Trump over a payment to a porn star or to a mistress to stay quiet. I mean, this is all you got. Fuck this. I mean, there's no evidence of Russia collusion. There's no evidence of any law breaking. I mean, besides maybe this whole campaign finance violation. I mean, who the fuck knows, though? But we'll see what happens. This is just ridiculous, though. The media is overblowing this story. And by the way, Cohen at first said that he made this payment without the direction of Donald Trump, and now he's changing his story. So he's a liar. So how can we even trust if he's telling the truth or not? We don't know. Did the prosecutors get him to say this? Because like I said, at first he didn't say this, but now he's changing his story. So again, there's a lot of gray area here, and this does not affect my view of Donald Trump whatsoever. So there you go, people. There's my thoughts on that. Once again, the Democrats and the mainstream media establishment blowing shit out of proportion, trying to bring down the popularity and approval ratings of Donald Trump. So there you go.